Hey everyone, this is Rocky from WeLearnChess.com, and I just had a pretty cool moment on Chess.com. I got my new highest rating ever, and the first time I've ever gotten to 1700. So I think I'm going to leave this here for a long time. I'm probably not going to play Blitz for a while, just so I can look at this. You always have to catch a bunch of breaks to make a good run. And I got lucky. I was playing a guy who he fell for two opening traps in a row. I can actually quickly show you because they're pretty cool. This game here, he was playing pretty tactical openings, and I like to play these open positions as well. And this is the Scotch Gambit, and this is one line. This is kind of like it's not a bad way to respond. It's a little bit passive. So white can either just take this pawn, and then if black exchanges, oops, sorry, I should go into the analyze here. So you can just do this, and I don't even think black's really supposed to take this because the idea is that you're kind of speeding up white's development. So it could go something like this. I mean, there's lots of things that could happen, but you could even imagine something like this where you just kind of look at this massive development here, and white can actually castle queenside in a lot of games. Actually, I think my buddy played this something similar to this against Susan Polgar. We went up to New York City over the summer, and yeah, well, we both got crushed. He did better than me actually. He lasted longer. I mean, my game lasted pretty long, but I was busted after like 9 or 10 moves because I got greedy and took a pawn in the opening, which was really silly. But I don't know exactly what position he had, but it was something like this, and she castled long, and eventually these queenside pawns got exchanged off, and she just had like two rooks bearing down on the king side, and it was pretty cool. But anyway, and black will often push these pawns on the queen side, so that's sort of one of the downsides for white, where you have to be a little bit careful because your pieces can get pushed around. So if you castle king side and you kind of just allow this massive expansion on the queen side, that you often see in the Philidor defense for black. You have to try to turn those pawn advances into weaknesses as white. Try to use the weakened squares, but it's not always so easy. It's a pretty solid defensive Philidor. I don't play it myself just because I don't like cramped positions too much, but I guess if you play for these expansions on the queen side, then you do end up with some space, so it's not too cramped. But anyway, okay, so just to quickly show what happened in the game. I didn't take right away just because I was looking at this the other day and the computer says to castle first. I'm actually, I mean, I'm not 100% sure why. I think the idea is, that you can slide your rook over behind this e-pawn, which can be helpful in some lines, but I'm not sure if that's totally the reason. So you can do some of your own analysis there and see what you find, and if you find another idea for that, then please share it. So anyway, after this is another common move where black is just trying to protect against some sensitive squares. Like this e-pawn push comes a lot of times. Like if he wants to put his knight here, he doesn't want to deal with this e-pawn push. So if he played like the knight right away, it would get pushed, which isn't the end of the world either. Black has responses to that, usually just playing d5 quickly, but this is kind of just sort of it's a solid way to play, but it's also slow and passive. So now you can take here, and just your king's safe too. So this development's looking a little bit scarier, I think, for black, except that white is castled kingside, so at least it won't be opposite side castles for him. So here, this is actually the mistake that I mean, it doesn't lose immediately, but it certainly doesn't help. So the problem is that even with d6 played, white can actually play e5 here. And the problem is that there's this tricky check here. And, well, the king has to go to e7 to keep an eye on the queen. But then there's some different checks, and black's in a lot of trouble. But actually, I guess my opponent didn't realize this, and he just dropped the queen and resigned. So I got one game there. And then the next game, actually, this was a lot trickier. But it's actually something that I don't think I've seen this trap. He kept playing this Ponziani opening, which is really, really sharp opening. But I found that a lot of people, both beginners and intermediate players too, they don't really know the opening that well. Like, I don't know if they've just seen sort of one, video on it. But you can look, for example, if you want to see how to play against this as black, you can look at a pretty cool video. I'll link to it below on the Chess Explained channel. He's got a whole repertoire for if you respond to 1e4 with e5 as black. A lot of good videos there. I mean, it's impossible to remember all the lines and everything, but it's good to look and see some of the patterns. So, yeah, this is the Ponzianias where white plays here for a quick development in the center, and I'm actually not sure what the best move is. I know that one move that you can play that's supposed to be good is just immediately d5, because you can ask yourself sort of what does this position have or not have that you usually don't see, because it looks a little weird. If you see this, you might stop for a second. And usually either white would have his bishop on b5, which threatens to take this knight, or it would be on c4, which is watching over this diagonal, or even if he played like if there was like a 4 knights game or something, or a 3 knights game, either way, then the knight here would be watching over the d5 square too. So it stops black from playing this d5 move pretty quickly. And a lot of times as black, if you're in an e4, e5 game, if you can play d5 under good circumstances, of course, not just like, to worsen your position, but if you can get it in, a lot of times it helps you because it frees up this bishop for one. Gives you a little more space for your pieces and you're not so cramped. So a lot of times you're usually doing okay if you can play d5, again, under favorable circumstances as black in these e4, e5 games. So it's something to always look out for. And the Ponziani actually allows this immediately because there's no protection on this d5 square. So I like to play this. There's different ways, I guess, that white can respond. I think one way is to bring the queen and the bishop out to these diagonals and start putting a lot of pressure on black. It's super sharp. The lines, I think, if both sides play perfectly, then it's pretty close to equal, or maybe even favors black a little bit if I remember right. But it's just, they're really long. But I found that at beginner and intermediate levels, people don't even know to play these, like queen a4 and followed by the bishop out here. But I have found that I just keep playing this because even though I don't know these lines, nobody ever plays these moves. They just take this, and I don't know what's best here. I think this is best. And I played a couple games with a guy where he ended up beating me. We played a bunch of games, once or twice, just because after I took here something like this, I thought I was doing fine, and maybe the computer confirms that, but it was still pretty hard to get something out of this. So you can just actually not take this, and you can just develop maybe with your bishop on this nice diagonal. White has been nice to you and let you got your bishop out. Usually your bad bishop, you might be able to castle long. So there's some nice things here. You don't have to take that pawn right away. Okay, so after a couple games where at least I lost one of them, and I don't think I had a great position in the other one, I played this one a little bit better. So here, let's see, what's this game? Oh yeah, I just developed here. And this is interesting here. This happens sometimes, and it looks a little scary as black, but you've got this check. And now actually, I wanted to play this pawn move first here, but if you just do it right away, just exchange everything, there's not really much going on here. So if anything, maybe it's a little awkward because you're going to have to play some moves to be able to move the knight if you want. So, but if you play this check first, then it gets a little bit different. Back to the game here. And your queen's not under attack because the knight's pinned. But now if you take, it's a little bit different. So you can throw in this castling move. And the thing is, well, if he takes this now, then you just drop the queen back, which is kind of, I was just expecting this. I didn't really calculate beyond this. And this is okay. I mean, he still has to develop his pieces. I'm going to get my bishop out to maybe put some pressure on this pawn while this knight is still pinned. I can always take this, and actually maybe even taking, like if he doesn't do something to protect it against the double isolated c-pawns, maybe I'll take it. Just to double his pawns and have something to play for, although he would have the bishop pair there, so, and the board is wide open, so maybe I shouldn't take it. But this just seemed okay to me. I was one move away from completing development. I can start to centralize my rooks. That looked pretty good. He didn't take it just yet. He did take it afterwards. So he played the queen out, and actually he gets in trouble here. So I just dropped the queen back, and the thing is, if he takes this now, it looks like it's really good because he's going to fork these two pieces, but he has to remember that he has to deal with this check. So he plays this check, and then I grab this, and now his king had to move. That was the whole big deal. So now not only did his king have to move, but now his bishop's blocked in, so this is just terrible. And actually, and even worse is that his queen gets pinned here, so I kind of stumbled into this luckily, but it's these sharp openings. Sometimes it happens where, a lot of times I'm on the losing side, but it was nice to get a couple, like, basically quick games, just like under 15 moves or something, under 20 moves this game. The other move was like under 12 moves. So that brought me up to 1693, and previously my highest rating had been 1698 in the blitz pool on chess.com. So yeah, was this the last one here? So yeah, this game, he basically tried a different move, I think, on a few different times. Like I said, we played a bunch of games, and this is just kind of a similar version where you just kind of speed up white's development a little bit. Not the end of the world or anything, but also you're on this diagonal, so it just takes a couple of moves for black to organize his pieces. But my opponent actually, I wonder if I could have played this again here. Oh no, because I didn't have my bishop on c4. I was thinking, why didn't I play e5 again there? But yeah, I didn't have my bishop on c4, so you don't have that bishop takes f7 trick afterwards. So I mean, I guess you could sack the pawn and then take the queen and force black not to have castling rights. But when the queens are off the board, a lot of times, I mean, it's debatable how much that really helps. So yeah, this game went a lot longer. This is an interesting spot for the bishop. It looks like it's just sort of biting on a rock here, but it sometimes makes it a little harder for black to expand his pawns. He's got to be more careful about how he does it, because the bishop is always sort of on this base pawn if it like if this c pawn decides to move. So it looks like black is winning the race here, actually, but well, I'm not going to go into too much detail. Like I already missed a couple moves here, like probably putting the knight here. Oops. Like instead of, this was kind of a slow move. I should, you should always try to look for more pressurizing moves. Like here, it would have been better to put my knight up right away on this great square, because it's going to get booted at some point anyway, and it just puts a little pressure on black, and probably you're going to win at least one of the bishops with this knight. So not just win it right out, but I mean, you'll be able to have the bishop pair. So I did get the bishop pair here anyway, but in any case, we both made some mistakes here, so it's not the point of this video just to go through all the analysis. But here I gave up some of my advantage. I had like between a 2 and a 3 pawn advantage for a lot of these. I've got a nice stable pawn chain here. I've got the bishop pair. The center of the board's nice and open to use those bishops. His pieces are a little tied down. He's got to spend a move or two just to reposition his pieces, and he'll be able to do it if I let him. So I just wanted to try to trade queens here, because for starters, I'm up a pawn, but I also have the better pawn structure, and I kind of allowed him to get into this. I did eventually manage to trade queens here, but I let him get into, I saw this potential threat here of him moving the pawn down, but I didn't respond to it correctly. So like here, I could have played rook up to like c4, so that would just at least temporarily stop this pawn from advancing, because I can just take it with the rook. But I played for a less effective method where I was pawn sacking here. But okay, we're both making mistakes here, so we get into an interesting spot here in the end, where okay, he creates luft for his king, but he has to be careful because he doesn't actually have an escape square, and that turns out to be the breaker here. So this turns out to be, I mean, probably not the losing move. I have to go into analysis so I can move the pieces, because he still had a way to sort of stay in the game. Okay, here we are. So yeah, he just kind of keeps an eye on this knight, and he can take back with the rook, and it all seems merry. But the problem is now this king is in this spot where he can't get out. And I have to admit that I didn't see the whole variation after this. Like, I just played the check just because I saw that it was on a square where the knight wasn't going to be able to attack it, and I figured I'd be able to move it in double, but I didn't really look about which square was best. And after I looked for a couple minutes, I realized that this is best. Like, anytime you can, when you want to try to double your rooks, you want to always make the move when you make a sideways move with the rook so that you can move your other one in. Usually it's on the 7th rank, here it's on the 8th rank. But you always want to try to, do some forcing move that it forces your opponent to respond to it. So here, like, maybe he wanted to try to protect this pawn, then I would be able to slide my other rook in, and then on the next move I would mate. Now, I actually saw that this is like a little bit of a trap here, and there's actually it's only, I think, one way for black to stay in this. I think he can sack the knight, I think, something like this, so that if I go for the checkmate here, then he could do something like that, and then his king has an escape, and I'm sorry, I actually wouldn't be able to take that, obviously. He'd still be down, but what's interesting here is that even though he's down a piece, he's got 3 connected passers, and it's going to be really, really hard to stop those. So the computer still gives white an advantage by a couple pawns, but it's not going to be easy. So that would have been black's best try there, but instead he fell for the trap, and oops, and he took this pawn. So I get to play this move immediately, and now you can't do anything about it. He just resigned here, but obviously if you take that, then it's just mate. There's no escape. So I set a little bit of a trap, and I got a little lucky that my opponent didn't see it. But that was pretty cool, and now I've got my new highest blitz rating at 1700. And yeah, probably, like, anytime that I get to a new milestone in blitz, I usually stop playing blitz for a while and switch over to 15-10 games. So yeah, maybe actually I'll even, I think I'm going to do it. I'm not going to actually play a game right now, but I just don't want to ruin my rating, so I'm going to set it to 15-10 here, and then I think if I cancel this, I'm actually not sure if that works, so maybe I'll go back here. I just want it to be like the first thing, because sometimes I log and just hit play game. Yeah, so it's at 15-10, so I won't actually ruin my rating and like hit play new game and then lose or something. So I want to keep that 1700 for a while and enjoy it. So good luck with your chess games, and hope you're moving up for your ratings as well. Take care.